welcome back. In this video, we will talk about the new addition of the Omni space through the V2 Profile Pack update. Before going into this profile setup, let's first discuss why we have introduced this workspace. Many of you are familiar that team members of Nucleus have been working for many years on developments with the team at Cathologic. With different target audiences needing roasting solutions, this has led not only to further refinements of the Nano, but also the development and establishment of the Link. This has allowed Cathologic manufactured solutions to address wider audiences of the coffee industry. Starting from the home enthusiast as Cathologic's initial target, collectively, our goal is to make roasting results better and easier for the barista, the producer, the exporter, and the competitor as well. One thing we have noticed is there are a lot of early adopters of the Nano wanting to explore the Link. And though visually, these units have their similarities, operationally Link functions in a different way with how profiles are not only suggested and selected, but also how coffees are designed to roast and be used. The Omni Pack was developed to be familiar for Cathologic Nano users wanting to transition to the Link, providing the familiarity to roast for several extraction applications from the same roast curve. To control the roast curve, these users are familiar with using the unit-level functionality to up or down roast degree and roast time. If we were to give you a loose comparison of the Omni Pack roast style, it would be most similar to the ready-to-drink profile of the Nano stylistically. We found that this workspace was a great transitioning platform for home enthusiasts embarking on the Link journey, providing a roast curve with multi-use over the filter and espresso extraction and simple means to adjust the core parameters. Although we wanted the profile to be familiar for those transitioning to the Link, the way a user navigates to the profile suggestion is like all other Link workspaces. The profile suggestion will be made through new sample entries within the Link app. There are two data points needed from the coffee you are hoping to roast. Firstly, volume by weight density. Secondly, the process of the coffee. These two data points will be used by the profile selector algorithm to make a suggestion on which is the best starting profile out of the 43 different versions of this curve that are housed within the Omni inbox. Now you have the answer to why this workspace has been included in the V2 update. Let's talk about the profile and why it has been designed the way it has. To make this explanation easier, we are going to select 205 Omni Profile as a base. Then using our compare function, we will bring up 205 Filter B Profile. And lastly, the 205 Espresso Profile. This demonstration will enable us to visualize and explain how the Omni Profile setup allows an option for an expression for both filter and espresso styles from the same roast curve. So let's dive in. I think the first clearly notable aspect of difference is first seen in how the Omni Profile climbs to a much higher temperature much faster than any of the two other roast curves. Doing this allows the dry phase to be completed much sooner and allows us to make sure that we spend the longest percentage in the Maillard phase of all the roast phases. This aspect is very important to the ability of this coffee to be soluble enough if wanting to prepare a coffee focused for espresso use, but also making sure that the roast is not overdeveloped to show a heavy and flat filter expression if the development percentage was geared more towards that expression. With a consistent target first crack range of between 6 minutes and 40 seconds to 7 minutes in general. And the fact this target is the same regardless if you are roasting for espresso or for filter. This puts the pivotal point of this roast use exclusively on the development phase and how much time and heat increase is made after the point first crack has occurred. Altering this phase will give the dictating traits of whether our roast will favor a filter or an espresso preparation more. Or in true Omni style, a range in the middle will be targeted in order to be suitable to be prepared for either use. The next point to bring to your attention is the overall time of the roast. If you have watched previous videos on the Link Espresso Profile Pack, you would have gotten a detailed explanation of how the Link is a fluid bed roaster using hot air as the primary conduction of heat. Without repeating too much of that in this video, here is a shorter summary for those not familiar. In a nutshell, hot air as the primary heat conduction can be challenging to roast with, as too much exposure to very hot heated air for too long for coffee can be detrimental and lead to structural or textural issues. These issues are often presented in your roast as a sense of dryness or even rough texture notable in the mouthfeel or finish when your coffee is extracted. These structural problems are more prone to occur for roasts set up for longer development percentages, i.e. espresso. When reviewing the Omni Pack setup, we noted that we are intentionally adding far more heated air at the start of the roast to move through the dry phase to get to the Maillard phase earlier. We do this in order to make the roast soluble over multiple extraction formats. Roasting this way, we noted that roast times over 9 minutes led to some of these slightly undesirable traits when brewed. So to make this approach work, it was only possible if the overall roast time we did this style of roast in was reduced. This is why the roast time on average is slightly shorter or similar to the roast time of the filter pack, even when targeting a development percentage more suitable for espresso. For Omni, we will expect roasts to be completed in 7 minutes and 25 seconds to 8 minutes and 45 seconds. By adopting these quicker roast times, everything came together for a fantastic and consistent way of roasting. Let's now move on to the last aspect of the curve shape we want to discuss. This is the downward momentum angle of heat transfer once the dry phase has been completed. You will notice this from the midpoint all the way to the end of the roast. This lower heat arc is to make sure that the minimum ROR allows the roast degree to be manageable in true Omni style so that it will sit slightly higher than what can be expected on the filter pack, but softer and more mellow than the approach of the increased target for the espresso pack. The last aspect worth mentioning with the Omni Pack is that it will have the most moisture loss from green to roasted. All the other roast styles within the Link system typically lose around 12 to 15%, yielding on average 89 to 87 grams of roasted coffee per 100 gram roast of green coffee, whereas the Omni Pack will lose 15 to 17%, yielding on average 86 to 84 grams of roasted coffee per 100 grams of green coffee. This tendency is due to the higher application of heat applied earlier in the roast. With the profile setup explained, let's get into selecting a profile. Like the other new V2 Profile Pack editions, Omni will also have its own custom set of profile suggestions. When wanting to roast in this workspace, first select a new sample entry and then Omni in the second pop-up screen. Once you have filled out the volume by weight density and the process and clicked Done, you will notice the solution page populates the profile suggestion followed by 2 suggested development percentage ranges. First is a suggested range that will best suit your sample if you want to focus on a primary filter used from this profile pack. The second is a suggested range that will best suit your sample if you want to focus on primarily more espresso used from this profile pack. Lastly, if you want a true Omni roast for both espresso and filter use, you would set the development for your roast between the highest number suggestion of the filter range and the start number suggestion of espresso's development percentage range. Moving on. If you want to use the advanced dial-in function when roasting in the Omni space, you will find the option to select Omni at the bottom of the first drop-down menu. Once that is selected, then proceed to enter the cracking point of the roast you did previously and the profile number used for a refined suggestion on which profile may work even better if you are roasting the same coffee a second time. So let's find a profile suggestion for the sample we are roasting. Today, we are preparing a Colombian coffee with a density of 64 grams. It is a washed coffee, so we will note that selection in the process input and then push Done to get our suggestion. Let's connect our link to the studio and find this profile. Click on the black bonbon icon and then the Profile tab. Let's open the inboxes and select Omni. Then in the second drop-down, scroll through all the profiles to find the profile 204, and we'll send that across to the roaster. Now, if you have downloaded the V2 profile pack to the unit, you can also make the same selection without needing to connect to the studio. On the unit, click the far menu button 4 times till the profile pack is displayed. Then push play. Now, use the plus or the minus buttons to move through the inboxes until you find Omni. Next, push the inbox button, which is the second last on the right, to scroll through the inbox to find your profile number. Today, we are looking for 204. When we find it, we push play to send it over to the roaster. With the profile selected, let's move on to set up the development percentage. I want to use this coffee primarily for filter brewing, but I'm still looking for a toned down acidity expression and more fullness in the weight of the body. For these reasons, I have decided to set the range to 13.5% and push play. I am now going to load my batch of 100 grams and then push play once more to start the roast. It's time to sit back, relax, and let the link do its thing. There are no actions needed unless a user wants to log the first crack to activate their DTR. For a user logging the first crack, expect this to occur between 6 minutes and 35 seconds and 7 minutes. Due to the quicker roast time, it is best to log your crack at the rolling consecutive pop 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 cracking sound over the first isolated noise you might hear. Once the development phase is complete, the roast will commence to enter the cooling cycle. The Omni roast will present great straight-off roast, but we do find if you have the time to let them wait for 24 to 72 hours, the expression will be even more complex. Once again, that is a wrap. Thank you for watching. We hope this video has explained the OmniPack function and purpose clearly. Whether you're new to roasting, an avid home enthusiast, or a seasoned industry professional, multi-purpose roasting for all your brewing needs has never been easier. As always, happy roasting.